Okay, let's call the meeting to order. It's Tuesday, October 16th, 2018. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And we've got John Marsh visiting with us today, just so everybody knows, from KWAS. So, minutes and reports received and filed.
September 2018, collective fees filed.
Okay. Commissioner Committee Liaison Reports, upcoming meetings and events.
Campo Wednesday. Chamber Connections Thursday afternoon, 4 o'clock, I believe. That's about all I got. Slow week, thank goodness.
Go ahead.
Okay, I got Cap Region Board meeting tonight. We've got Senator McCaskill's listening post here tomorrow. I got a Chamber YP lunch Thursday. Friday, I'm going to ride along with Lyle and the sheriff, so I don't know if I want to be busy or, I don't know, we'll see.
That's a good day to ride party,
Yeah. Well, I figure a 7-foot tall deputy, I can hide behind him.
Yeah, no one ever picks on these guys.
Yeah.
I think you need a smaller car for him, because I think that'd be even better to see him get out of a real little car.
I let Lyle have whatever car he wants.
Oh, I don't disagree with that, but I think it'd just be funnier.
Well, we have a wagon we're gonna attach to the back of the vehicle for him to ride in.
Okay, Saturday I got State Technical College reception. Sunday I got a tour of the MSP, and then my article in the News Tribune comes out. It's on Stringtown Loman. Shepperleys really settled that area. A lot of Shepperleys in that. That's all I've got.
The thing I have is a smart growth seminar that I'm going to tomorrow at 1.
Okay. Presentation from staff, consultants, invited guests. Presentation by Capital Area Metropolitan Planning Organization.
First on the list.
Yeah.
Take care of y'all.
What am I here for? Where do I stand for this? Just
The
somewhere.
microphones are just for recording, they're not for amplifying, so.
Does Twinkle Twinkle Little Star count? That's about all I got. So I know a couple of you know me pretty well. Sam, I haven't had as much experience working with you, but so I'm Katrina Williams, and I work for the Capital Area Metropolitan Planning Organization. Our organization, for those here, includes Holt Summit, Jefferson City, Wardsville, Taos, St. Martins, about a third of northern Cole County, and a small amount of Callaway County. We have a population within that metropolitan area of about 77,000 people, and we do transportation planning for that area. Our staff positions are within the city of Jefferson, but we're federally funded. 80% of our salary is paid by federal funds. So as part of our transportation planning, we are updating our metropolitan transportation plan. This is updated every 5 years. It is a 25-year planning horizon, so it's a long-range transportation plan. And we really want to encourage all of our communities and our counties to participate in the process as much as they can. So we sent out a questionnaire to all of our stakeholders, which included your public works staff. So Eric Landwehr and Larry Benz both responded back to our questionnaire and gave us a pretty good list of projects. But I'm really here to ask you if there are any major issues that you want to make sure is on that list. So that whenever we're doing our modeling and setting up our goals and our strategies, are there some really important areas that you want us to pay attention to? I'm putting you on the spot.
Yeah, I guess the question would be is, what's the projects that you currently have?
Do you want me to go through the list? There's not a ton of them. It's probably like 10 projects.
Or is that something that you could get to us and we could take a look at it and get back
Sure.
to you? Or
But,
I can do that if that would be an easier process.
They had a hearing or open house, whatever you want to call it, last
had
week down at City Hall, and they got one tonight at Holt Summit, but,
And I have some flyers for that, yeah.
yeah, we can, whatever you wanna add to it. And I had the list from our last meeting. I think it's still sitting on my desk, so I apologize for not getting that to you, but it didn't change much from 5 years ago.
Not really. I think a lot of them are the same, similar projects that you had before. So, and we already had a prioritized list that the Campo board passed, and a lot of these projects are on that list or are indirectly related to the projects on that list.
Yeah, I think some of it is just kind of keeping the pulse of the small communities that need help with stuff like Wardsville, and you all have met with Wardsville already, you're meeting with Holt Summit, so there's things that they're asking for too, so.
Yeah, we went out to, I went to St. Martin's too, spoke with them. I didn't hear back from Taos. I've not spoken to Taos yet, but going out to all those communities and just making sure that we get the right information on what their priorities are and what their needs are in their community.
And this
We
is
have
roads and sidewalks and
anything transportation related. We don't have the port on this list, and I don't believe there's been a selection of site yet, has there? Officially?
No, well, not
Say that
officially, but yeah, we're looking at, on south side, it's below the Ike Skelton Center, and then on the north side, it'd be almost directly across from it. So, yeah, it's,
So we don't really have anything in our questionnaire results saying, you know, we want to make sure we have good access to that port facility. So that might be
November
something we
7th,
can
there's
add.
going to be a presentation at, we'll make sure you get invited to that.
Okay.
'Cause
Is that at the chamber or?
it's going to be at Doubletree, and I think it's 11:30 to 1, so there'll be like a lunch. But American Patriot Containers is a big international company. They're going to make a presentation on basically the ships and everything like that they use, because, you know, they'll still use some barges, we'll still have barge, but a lot of these are going to be container ships where, you know, you just drive the truck down there, put the container on, and it goes on to St. Louis. And so, yeah.
Okay. Make sure that gets on there. We also wanted to invite you all to the other open house. We didn't have a great turnout at the one in Jeff City, but the one in Holt Summit is going to be at their, it says City Hall in this, but it's their municipal center, which is right next to their City Hall, tomorrow night from 4 to 7. And then we have a survey going around. We'd really encourage everybody to take that survey, and you can find it at www.campo2045.com. And I have some flyers that I can leave here for folks if they want to look at that.
yeah, if you could just give me that list,
Yeah.
take a look at it.
I'll go ahead and give you
try
this
to-
copy.
Okay,
And
great.
then,
Awesome, thank you.
not a problem.
Okay, and you're gonna leave some stuff for us to pass out or whatever?
Yes, I'm gonna leave these.
Okay.
You know,
Okay. Yep. Thank you,
And I'm
Katrina.
Thanks,
sorry you have
Katrina.
to put
Thanks,
up
Alex.
with Jeff all the time, but,
It's
you know, there's
rough.
never a dull moment, is there?
no, he keeps it light and fun.
We have record meetings. They're like quick. They don't mess around.
It's a race.
I don't let them like have people take control like I do
Oh,
at these tight ship. No, it's thanks to the city staff keeping it straight, so y'all do a great job helping out with that.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, discussion and renewal of the 2019 health insurance, the Wall Street Group.
Oh, no. I didn't see that on here today. We shouldn't have had breakfast first.
You slide right up here, Joe.
Hey, Dave, where's mine? Somehow, my commission got changed to
Okay.
These folders.
the 9th, so I somehow replaced it. So we're
Good morning.
commission agenda is on the up drive.
Got cold hands?
Thank you.
Morning, Randy, sorry. Go to mine. Thank you.
Frost was on the pumpkin, so to speak.
And then I
Yeah.
I wasn't ready for that.
Literally,
You know what that is, or-
send to desktop. Okay. Sorry about that.
Good morning. Thank you to the commission for allowing us to come up and visit with you this morning regarding the employee benefit group health and pharmacy benefit renewal, along with the non-medical, what we call ancillary lines, life, dental, vision, those type of things. We did put in just a high-level agenda. On the right-hand side, on the left-hand side gets into your stop-loss renewal, which is your largest fixed cost, being partial self-funded. And if it's okay with the commission, I'll take a little bit of time to walk back through that, because we talk about it with you all, give or take once a year, and it's a lot of numbers. But before we jump into that, do you have any questions or anything else Debbie wanted to address before we jump into that? Okay, so on the left-hand side, I'll just kind of walk back through this. Again, a lot of numbers here, but going down the left-hand side as a reminder, we left fully insured United Healthcare now, gosh, has it been, I think here, probably like 5 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And just to put that in perspective again, when you're fully insured, as a lot of employers still are today, especially if they're not large enough to look at a different way to finance your plan, you're purchasing insurance from an insurance company, they give you a premium, so they underwrite you each year, they give you a premium, you agree to that, and you're giving them all the money, they're taking all the risk. About 10 months later, you have another renewal cycle, your broker advisor goes out and looks at the market, and you kind of chase premium, if you will, and through the years, we might have been with Blue Cross for a couple of years, and we went to United, and at most employers, it's just the world you're in. And to put that in perspective, for a lot of the smaller employers in Cole County and surrounding areas, they're kind of in that world because they're just not large enough to look at different ways to finance their plan. And the world of fully insured, there's nothing real pretty about that. Most employers are still seeing increases. If it's not double digit, it's single digit increases. So it's still a struggle in the marketplace to finance your health plan. So we looked at an option a few years ago to leave fully insured and go into what we call partial self-funding. And just to put that in perspective again, partial self-funding is where you're purchasing reinsurance to cover claims, both individually for an individual member, as well as aggregate for the whole group above a certain amount. If you weren't partial self-funded, you might be totally self-funded. And to put that in perspective, I'll just use Ford Motors or whoever your vehicle of choice is. But you know, when you're a real large employer, you may not even buy reinsurance. So when there's a claim that happens, it goes through a network discount, it gets presented for payment through your administrator, in this case UMR, and then you're writing a check for that claim after the member has paid their deductible and their co-insurance and things. So the difference here is you all have protection, and that protection is outlined on this stop-loss renewal. So this is the largest part of your fixed cost and also gives you the protection against claims above a certain amount. Any questions on that? Just want to kind of level set. So on the left-hand side, when you look at, again, we kind of have the stop-loss terms here. The carrier that we're with today, so we're going to go down the left-hand side, and then on the top heading where it says current, we're currently with Sun Life, and then going across from that, you'll see, excuse me, you'll see where we have a renewal from Sun Life. We also shopped out your reinsurance to multiple carriers. We just included the top 3 here. But this is one thing that's nice about being partial self-funded. There is probably 20 reinsurance carriers that are still in the marketplace. Where in the fully insured world, you have Blue Cross, United, Aetna, and Cigna. Here we have multiple carriers that we go to behind the scenes to have this reinsurance in place. This isn't something that affects your employees. You know, they've got their ID card, they know they're with United Healthcare as far as a network, but this is who gives you coverage at the employer level when you have a reinsurance claim. The network is Choice Plus, which is still United Healthcare's network, and that's the reason that we use UMR as the third-party administrator, because they're owned by United Healthcare, so we're able to still use their network. Wall Street does not charge a commission. We get paid a flat per employee per month fee. That's not changing. Some brokers charge commissions in your reinsurance. There's nothing wrong with that, but years ago when we set this up, we just did a flat fee. So if your reinsurance rates go up or down, you know, we're not making more money. You know, if the rates go up over time, they will go up generally. But your specific deductible is the amount that you pay for any individual claimant, and that can be employee or covered dependent, for the policy period, which I'll talk more about. So the county, to put that in perspective, as all of you are aware, you're paying the individual's claim up to $75,000. Now they're of course paying again their deductible, their co-insurance, but if you had $1 million claim, to put that in perspective, and it was all a covered benefit, you would be paying the first $75,000. After that, reinsurance would step in. And this allows you, in our opinion, to be partial self-funded because you have protection. If you were writing a check for every claim up to any amount, obviously it would be a significant liability. So you're paying the first $75,000. The maximum coverage limit's unlimited, and that came out of ACA in 2014. There are no limits as far as lifetime or maximum limits under healthcare anymore. So that means that this carrier is covering that risk. I used $1 million, but it could be a $3 or $4 million claim. There is no limit where you run out of coverage. The contract's a 12-15. I'll explain this again because this can get a little confusing, but when we left fully insured, anything that happened up to that point, that carrier had to pay for it because you've already prepaid them premiums to cover that risk. When we went partial self-funded, we started paying claims January 1 of that year, but you have to realize throughout the year there's claims that are incurred, processed, and paid during that year, but you also have claims that are not paid during that year, and that's called runout. So to put that in perspective, if I go in and have an MRI on December 12th, it may not get processed until January, February, or March as an example. So we're purchasing a 12-15, which means any claims incurred during the policy year, and you all are a calendar year basis, so this past year, anything incurred in 2018, as long as it's processed and paid during 2018 or the first 3 months of 2019 is covered under the stop loss policy. So that's very important, otherwise you could have a gap, if you would, in coverage. This covers medical and pharmacy, referred to as RX, so any claims that an individual under this plan, a covered member has for medical or pharmacy falls under the policy. The annual, then we get into the second layer of coverage, but let me stop with that because this is one of the most important parts of your insurance is your coverage here. Nothing's changing there, but just any questions? Okay. The next area of coverage is your aggregate, which is your ceiling. And to put that in perspective, you all are covering, we're covering 285 employees plus their dependents under this plan. So we're insuring probably close to 400 belly buttons, if you will. If every single person, which would never happen, but if every single person had claims, significant claims, the county would be paying those up to $75,000. So that could be an enormous number. So besides insuring the county at the individual level, we also buy what's called aggregate, which is kind of a ceiling coverage, and that's this next layer of coverage. So you have an annual maximum of $1 million. That means after you hit that ceiling, if you ever would, which you never have, there's a $1 million insurance policy that steps in. It also is a contract on a 12-15, so it gives you the runout we talked about, and it covers medical and pharmacy. When you go, the disclosure we talk about here, this won't apply. These rates are firm with Sun Life specifically as we go through this, so over the next, whether you make a decision today or the next couple days, the rates that we're looking at are firm. We get into the stop loss premium now, and this is what you're paying for that policy. So we went to the carrier again and said, we want you to cover us for any claim over $75,000. They're going to charge you a premium for that. So when you look at the current stop loss premium, you're employee only, and you can see the census there. We have 225 employee onlys. The rate for that is $74.66. We're having an increase, which is a composite increase of 6.04, so call it 6% on this piece of our reinsurance only. This doesn't mean we're getting a 6% increase in our total cost. It's just what you're paying for this premium. So you can see, I won't read through every number there, but you can see the current rates, what they're going to. So we're having a slight increase, which equates to just over 6%. And when you break all that out to your total premium, your total fixed premium, which is important because this is the hard dollars that you're paying. If you had no claims at all, which of course is not going to happen, but if you had 0 claims, you're still paying this amount of money in premium. Just like when you buy your homeowner's insurance or your car insurance, even if you don't have a claim, you're still spending that premium. So currently we're at 300 and call it 45,000. It's going to 365,000, so about a $20,000 increase in fixed cost. When you slide across, you'll see the competition of option 1, 2, and 3. The first two are a little bit higher. The last one is just a hair lower. But again, our opinion as we work through this, you'll see that the renewal with Sun Life is very favorable. We are recommending renewing with Sun Life. We did get them down, by the way. They came in a little bit higher, but through marketing this to the reinsurance carriers and obviously working as your broker advisor, we pushed them and kind of gave them last look, which is standard in the industry. So that part is your fixed cost. That's what you're paying for the reinsurance coverage for all the stuff we just spoke about. Before I get into these bottom numbers, any questions on that? You didn't know this was going to be a math quiz this morning. So below this is the aggregate coverage. And when you think about aggregate coverage, you're asking a reinsurance carrier to take a best guess estimate on what your group of members that you're covering is going to have in claims. And of course, they don't know any more than you do, except they can look at your history and your experience and come up with an actuarial estimate, which they're always usually pretty good at that. So they've came up with aggregate factors. They come up with a ceiling. And I'll keep using that term. They're coming up with a ceiling, and if you go beyond that ceiling is where they'll step in and pay, and you have this $1 million of coverage on this aggregate policy. So they come up with a ceiling. When you look at where it says maximum claims liability, there's four sets of rates there. Under current, the one that says $523.85. If you go to the right of that, you'll see they've actually lowered this. So even though we're having a 6% increase in fixed cost, $20,000, your big claims liability ceiling is going down. And you'll notice your maximum claims liability, that ceiling, this current year was $2,159,000, call it $60,000. It's going down to $2,051,000. So we're going down about $100,000, $110,000 in claim liability. Just keep in mind these are soft dollars, because if you never hit the ceiling, it doesn't matter, and you haven't hit that ceiling. But it is nice to have a reasonable renewal, and in this case, a reduction there. So our ceiling is going down about right at 5%. And when you work yourself all the way to the bottom, when you add up the fixed cost increase, take into account the 5% decrease in ceiling, you're ending up with a negative 3.5% increase in total exposure. But I don't want to take away the fact that you are spending $20,000 more in fixed cost. But your overall exposure is going down. And you can see, looking at the competition, one carrier was a 6% increase, one was -4, so about 1% lower, and one was not, just under 1%. For that reason, we are recommending to renew with Sun Life. These rates are firm. There's no additional underwriting that has to be done. Any questions on the reinsurance renewal? Okay, so at some point that'll need to be a decision. We'll need to know if you do want to renew with that, and you'll sign that renewal application. With that, just right behind that page is your current medical plans, and you're familiar with those. We don't necessarily have to go through the details, but just as a reminder, you're offering each employee the option of choosing a traditional plan. We call it a traditional PPO on the right-hand side. That has a deductible of $1,000 for the individual in network, $2,000 for the family. I won't go through all the different coverages, but it does have upfront co-payments for an office visit. It has upfront co-payments for pharmacy. So it's more of a traditional insurance plan, medical plan that most people have become accustomed to. But we also offered several years ago under the fully insured plan, and continued that under the partial self-funding, the option of each employee choosing what we call a high deductible plan, that they can put a HSA, a health savings account, with that. And that plan is in the middle of the page, a little bit higher deductible, $2,500 for the individual, $5,000 for the family. It does not have upfront co-payments for office visit or pharmacy, because you have to meet your deductible first. So the only thing covered there first is wellness, but the rate, the premium that the employee pays is less there, because they're taking more liability on. It's not as rich a plan up front as the traditional. And if Debbie doesn't mind, I'll have her remind you what the premiums are, but the commission has agreed to spend a certain amount to cover 100% of the employee premium. And if the employee takes the less expensive premium HSA plan, you're giving them that difference to put into their health savings account. So I would make one comment on that before Debbie reminds you of the numbers. The number of businesses that are still paying 100% of the medical premium for their employees is very small. So we commend you all for doing that. Most businesses would love to do it, but a lot of businesses simply have gotten to a point they can't do it. So it's great that you can still do that if you can continue to do that.
I can remind you of what the rates are now, based on their recommendation. Keep the rates the same going into 2019 and stay with the OMR. There was talk at one time about maybe covering dependents at a higher rate. Currently, we do cover the whole cost, like Randy said, of the employee, and we're up to about 22, 21, or 20% of the dependents' cost that we cover. Does it compare to the state and to the city? No. They're both probably about 80% that they pay for their dependents. But again, there is a price tag that comes with that. And I know I've talked to Chris about it. Chris asked me to run some numbers on that before. I just didn't know if that was an issue that you wanted to take on. Like me and Randy talked about before, once you do give a benefit, it's very hard to back off of the benefit. And considering we are probably one of the fewer employees that do cover the full cost of the employee. So it's up to you. I would like to get it out to the employees before the end of the month, because it is open enrollment for the state right now till the end of October. So a lot of them kind of want to coordinate their benefits. Even though I'm looking at probably the first part of November to have our enrollment process, be it what it may be, it may not even be going out to visit everybody if things don't change, But there's always, you have to have open enrollment for those that do want to change for the next calendar year. So just some guidance of if you want to make a decision today, if we want to put it back on the agenda for next week and then make the ultimate decision. But not to confuse Sun Life. Sun Life also does the stop loss, but they do our dental, vision, and life as well. But they're two separate entities. So when he's talking about Sun Life here, it's just the reinsurance part. Do you have any other questions?
That was the one thing that, and talking to certain employees that they wanted they'd like a lower rate for their dependents, for a spouse and children. The problem is that it's so hard to know at what point do you fund that, what that's going to cost you, and then what the claims are going to cost you. I mean, it's just kind of a shot in the dark. So how many people are going to sign up? More people. What's that cost our insurance fund, and then the claims that go against that. So there's really no easy way to figure out what that's going to be. It's just kind of, hey, take a leap of faith, and if you're going to do it, and obviously. My thought on it was maybe we could go, Debbie says we're at 22%, at the most I would want to go would be 50%. But like I said, I can't get you any numbers of what that's going to cost us. So it's a hard one to swallow. I couldn't really get my fingers around it either. So, but it's just a discussion topic. I mean, it's one of the great benefits that we do have here at the county for our employees, and we have problems recruiting people as everybody else does too. And so, a lot of times people look at what the benefits are, and that you make less, but if your benefits are good, it's obviously something to consider. But I'm not advocating either way. I'm just kind of trying to have a discussion here.
Make a decision next week. But I'd love to be able to pay more for the family. I don't know. We need some kind of a ballpark cost, I guess. I don't know.
I did the cost based on current enrollment, but that's not what may happen.
Yeah.
There may be more people jump on because it's cheaper, and then in turn, I couldn't tell you how much it's going to cost the fund itself for payouts. Tell you premium wise, based on current only.
Yeah, but it's just a guess on premium wise too, because it all depends on how many people sign up.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's based on who we have now.
Somewhere down the road, if we do get a nurse practitioner over at the health department, where we can do our own clinic, that
Yep.
could be advantageous.
So probably the one thing, if you're comfortable deciding on today, is the stop loss renewal, because we need to get that signature. If it goes beyond the date that they have open for the offer, they reserve the right to go back and re-underwrite, which may not change anything, but if we would have a unforsaken accident of an employee or something and a major claim pops up, they have the right to go back and re-underwrite that. So if you're comfortable with that decision today, it would be wise to do that.
What's, I was looking at some of the notes at the bottom, what's a no new laser?
That's a great question, Jeff. On reinsurance, currently we have the $75,000 per individual. So the carrier in the marketplace is quoted, and you've seen all those numbers. The reinsurance industry can impose lasers, and a laser can be imposed at your renewal offer when you have a known high claimant, and I'll use someone who might be on a transplant waiting list as an example. That would be a known high claimant that may, what they call manifest or occur. We could have someone who's taken a very, very high medication. We've seen medications come through, not on your group specifically, as much as $50,000 to $100,000 a month for a pharmacy medication. So if we had someone taking a $50,000 a month medication, they know it's going to be a $600,000 claim. Well, they know automatically when they're generating your renewal, they're on the hook for anything over that $75,000. So they either increase your premiums to try to absorb that, so we're getting an increase rather than a 6% of 22% or whatever, or they say, hey, we're not going to increase your overall premiums, we are going to laser this individual, could be an employee or dependent, and put a higher deductible on them. And we have seen those in the several hundreds of thousands of dollar range. So you can have a laser of $250,000, $500,000, I've seen them higher. And that just means if you accept that renewal, you don't just have a $75,000 limit on that claim, you now have a $250,000 or a $500,000. The good news is there's no lasers with any of the carriers this year, so hopefully we won't see that. But the reality of lasers in the marketplace is growing because we're seeing the amount of claims. There's a lot more claims that are $1 million claims today than it was 5 years ago. So, but the great question, we don't have any of those imposed on us, and that's another reason to lock in your renewal when you're comfortable doing that. But we may end up dealing with a laser in the future. Hopefully we won't. Does that make sense, Jeff?
Kinda. It's enough. And then the United Healthcare had mentioned something about the experienced refund at the bottom.
Oh, that's on option 2. So option 2, some of the carriers will do an experience refund. That is where if you pay in a certain amount to that carrier, basically they're looking at your premiums, and if the premiums are more profitable and there's a margin in there, they will look at your premium you paid in, claims that they paid out. It takes about 6 months into the next year because they look at all your run out, those 12, 15. If you come in below that benchmark, they would be writing you a check back for an amount based on that formula. And you will be paying a little bit more in fixed costs to get that, and we can present that for you all if you're interested in looking at it. But there's nothing wrong with it. It's a good option, but you're paying a little bit more for the potential of getting something back, if you will, which no guarantees.
Okay, so that would come off of the fixed cost price, the total, fixed cost total.
Yeah,
So if this fixed cost total may be more now, and if
yeah, you're exactly
if we're
right.
lucky and we have a good year, it could potentially be less with the refund if
That's
we
correct.
got one. But there's nothing saying we're gonna get one.
That's correct.
Okay.
And those are good options. If we would get to where there's enough premium differential to warrant that, I think in the future, obviously it makes sense.
Yeah, it's not guaranteed, so.
Right.
I was curious. I know
No.
we've gotten refunds on some different insurance
Yeah.
things, and those are always nice surprises.
Yep. I think someone's here today to do that.
So Randy,
All right.
I'm having a hard time getting to the maximum plan cost.
Okay.
So I see my annual fixed cost and I see my expected plan cost.
So if you add those two together, that is your maximum plan cost.
So, but it looked like, when I took the 365 in my annual fixed cost and I took my expected claim liability, I got to my expected plan cost. Is that not right?
You should add up your fixed cost plus your expected cost, and that should get to your maximum plan cost. It looks like that 2.4 might be off, is that right? I don't have my calculator.
I was just having a little problem with the math, and it
Yeah,
looked
you,
like
you
it was-
normally should take your, so 365.
So you're trying to figure out what that 2.4 million,
Yeah,
what add, yeah.
So the 365.
I saw the 2 million, the 2075, but
so I mean, I took the annual fixed cost and the expected claim liability to get to my expected plan cost. 2,075,715.
Yeah, 207, 2,075,000 and change, plus the 365,000 and change of fixed cost, and is it just
but I think they're taking the maximum claim liability plus the total annual
So it looks like-
premium and adding them up for the maximum claim cost.
Yeah, you would. I mean, you would take your expected cost,
They just don't have that added up.
right. So we can adjust that for you. But you have your fixed cost, and then,
So tell me how I get to my expected plan cost then.
what they're doing on your expected liability is, actually, so I'm sorry here, you've got your fixed cost, and then you have your expected plan cost, and actually, if you go back up to, the top up here under aggregate, on the top left, it says aggregate annual maximum $1 million, and then your deductible corridor 120%. What they do is figure up your maximum plan cost, which is listed at the bottom of 2 million, your renewal, 2,417,000. That is your ceiling, and you have to actually add that number plus your fixed cost together. And we didn't total all that here for you, but the expected plan cost is 20% less than that. So what they're doing is they add up, the carrier adds up your expected cost. So you have your fixed cost that we talked about, the 300, and I'm looking at the renewal, the 365,000.
Right.
That's a hard dollar that's being paid. They figure out what they expect you to have in claims,
Right.
which is the expected of 2,075,000. They add 20% to that,
Okay.
which is their corridor, and that gets you to your 2,417,000.
Okay.
What they're saying is, until you pay the 2,417,000, they're not going to pay the $1 million. What you're paying for that $1 million of coverage is the rate of $5.43, which is in your specific stop loss. So 543
So
times.
2,075,000 plus 20%.
It would be yes, 2,075,000 times 20% should get you to 2,417.
Okay, that's where I needed, that's where I was going for the,
543 times 285. 543 times 285 times 12.
should be pretty close.
So just to put that in perspective, this ceiling coverage that you're purchasing, you're paying under the fixed cost up here, $5 at the renewal, $5.43. So if you take $5.43, a monthly premium, times your number of covered employees of 285, so $5.43 times 285 employees times 12 to get your annual total. Debbie just figured it up. Thank you, Debbie. Is like $18,000. You're paying an $18,000 premium for this $1 million insurance policy. So they don't charge you a lot, but they also set it at a point they don't expect you to hit. So they figure up your expected claims. They add what's called a 20% corridor. Some carriers do 25%, and they say, here's your ceiling. But that's why most businesses don't get close to that ceiling, is because they've set it at an actuarial point that they're protecting themselves. But it does give you protection, and I shared with, Joe and I shared with Debbie before, while most businesses don't hit that, and there's some businesses that don't even buy this ceiling coverage, because you are spending $18,000, call it $20,000 a year that you probably will never use. The risk that you have is twofold. One, if you have a natural disaster or an epidemic where you have a lot of your covered lives, and again, it's not just employees, we got a lot of covered dependents, so call it 400 belly buttons covered. We would have hundreds of those members go in for care. You all are paying the first $75,000 of every one of them. The before the other coverage steps in. So the ceiling simply gives you a maximum of, hey, if we had a terrible year of a lot of claims under 75,000, there's a ceiling. Again, it's not the $1 million claim. The $1 million claim is one claim, you pay the first 75 and you're done. It's a lot of claims under 75,000, if that makes sense. So, well, I'm sorry, we didn't total all that for you, but, so your fixed costs are known dollars, they're gone. The rest of this is a ceiling, and you're deciding where to fund your premiums and your account and so forth to account for that liability. But your max cost is the $2,417,000. That's the ceiling you would have to hit before they would step in on the aggregate. And your fixed cost, you're paying outside of that, basically. Does that answer your question? Good.
So what do you need done today?
Just to go with the stop-loss carrier, Sun Life.
Sun Life for the,
2019.
And then we could decide on the family portion later,
Yeah.
our portion that we're gonna
Next
cover.
week, yeah, let's,
Keep it the same, or decide to do something different for next
yeah.
week.
I'm fine.
If you need
Still don't like where we gotta do 90 days through Express Script. To me, that's monopoly. I've yelled at Joe before. I'm like, I wanna do my prescriptions locally.
Well, we did give a list of ones that you could do
Yeah,
that
there
with.
are,
Yeah.
yes.
But it says, at 3 times your retail copay. So there's,
Yeah, to do local, you do lose that half
yeah,
a month copay.
I know.
You want me to yell at them again over that?
Yeah, that still
Okay.
makes me mad.
So we're-
You got the right
Wanna do
person,
local?
you got the right person yelling at them, I'll tell you that.
quit taking medication.
No, make sure you take your meds. So what?
Listen, you're gonna have all the money, Jeff.
Wait,
I've been
you-
seeing your name in the paper
you-
with the football
I pay
thing.
3 times, pay 3
How about I went
times.
from first to worst this week?
Oh, well, that's,
At least we did get all the locals that you
Yeah.
wanted done, so that was good.
yeah.
But I'll tell them again,
Yeah,
see
tell
if
'em.
I can get anything
Tell them that's
out
not
of them.
fair. I'd like to
Hey,
have
I'm
that
good at what's
monopoly. I'd
not
like
fair,
to-
trust me.
I'd like to be Express Script, yes, that's a hell of a deal.
I think we all would.
It's a hell of a deal.
Yeah.
Good with the stop loss with Sun Life.
All of the
I'm
pharmacy
fine with doing that
places.
today, we can move on that, the
Okay.
family thing, I don't know when you wanna talk about that, if you wanna talk about it today. I've heard that as well, but I don't know if I think I should have to pay for it. And essentially, people that don't use it will be paying for it. It's
True.
gonna drive my cost up. So. Kinda selfish that
Share
way.
the wealth.
Sure. I get a free ad in the paper if I win each week.
Sure you paid for it too.
Well, I'm paying for that others, but, so,
I move that we renew the stop loss with Sun Life.
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Randy.
Thank you all very much. We appreciate working with you all. We have for a long time. We don't take that for granted, and it's been a great relationship, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
And your ancillary's
Yeah.
in a hole this year, so
Good.
we're good there. Okay. I will send that over for signature.
Thank you.
I'll
Thanks,
send it to
gentlemen.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
See y'all.
Okay, any commission comments? No. Bids and contracts, renewal of 2017-34R1, unarmed security guard services.
We bid a security guard, unarmed security guard services at the courthouse last year. They bid it for a 3-year thing. So this year is just year 2. It's up about $1,800 from last year, or 1.8%. Talking to Donnie, he's very happy with them. It's to renew. So I don't know if there's any questions, otherwise I have the renewal to sign.
Good.
Good, yeah.
Okay. Do we have any unfinished business? Okay, new business, accounts payable review.
Make a motion to this.
Yeah, Sam's trying to rush us here.
It's usually the other way
Forgot
around.
about
Yeah.
that. Well,
We're usually on you to keep going, cracking the whip. Here you
I
are.
know.
I move that we sign renewal number 2 with Guardsman Security and Investigation Services.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Good
Now,
job, Sam.
accounts payable review.
I'd ask for approval of accounts payable pending review.
Okay. I move that we approve accounts payable pending review.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
September investments report, Mr. Eric. What do you think, John? He's okay.
He's kinda quiet.
He's okay.
He's usually not that quiet.
That's what I'll post. I'll post, we like this, John, he's quieter.
Thank you. He's not giving the weather report at Stringtown.
Maybe.
By the way, I hear you're jealous of my song.
Yeah, yeah. Well, they played Putting on the Ritz for me.
What was yours?
It's a ship.
Old ship.
Old, yeah.
Well, this shouldn't take too long. We've kind of come full circle on the county investments. You all remember the work we all did on the investment policy, and then our first several meetings where we kind of worked out the method we would use on determining how much to invest. So if you'll turn to your first handout, I guess we'll just go with matured investments. As Sam had asked, those last two columns, it shows, the last column would show had we not moved excess cash into treasury bills and treasury notes, what we would have yielded had that money, not all of our money, not the 34+ million, but the portion that we've invested in treasuries, had we kept it in our bank accounts, it would have earned about $4,000 or $5,000 by now, versus the investments that we've worked cooperatively on is now a little over, will be over 20,000 here. I think in a day or two we have another 1.5 maturing, so that should bring that interest received over $20,000. In the relatively short period of time that we've launched into this investment strategy, so that seems to be a good use of everybody's time and money. If you'll look at the investments sheet, it shows 4.5 million, but of course the second entry there, the second row, the general revenue U.S. Treasury bill for 1.5, that matures tomorrow, leaving us at 3 million. That's out there longer term in that latter portfolio that you all agreed to last year. As we've gotten into this process, Mark does a calculation of revenues and expenses for a given month, kind of pivots to Debbie and Kristen in particular to see if his math is correct, and we come up with a number that points us in the direction how much to invest. This time Mark did his calculations. It came up 1.7 million to reinvest. Unfortunately, in talking to the auditor, we have a very large jail bond payment to make. We have some budgeted transfers to make. So that brings that 1.7 down to about 0. So we're not proposing any reinvestments this month. We assume that with tax monies coming in through the collector late November through December, that maybe sometime in January of next year, we'll be in a position to talk to the auditor and Debbie and see if we can't begin again on those shorter 30-day Treasury bill reinvestments and keep earning yield if we can do that. So I will make one more point, and that is that our rate today at the bank, on that 30 million, our first 30 million, we earned the 3-month Treasury plus 16 basis points. From 30 to 34, we earned the 3-month Treasury minus 15. And then anything over 34 million, it's simply the bank's overnight rate, which I believe now still is at 0.25. So Mark and I do everything we can to keep those accounts below 34, because 0.25 is simply, giving somebody else our yield instead of earning it ourselves. But I will say that a year ago in October of 2017, we were only earning 1.01%. And we're now, as of today, we're at 2.31%. And that's before you add the 0.16, the 16 basis points that we get on the first 30. And so that's compliments of the Federal Reserve, as I pointed out in the past. Their Open Markets Committee has, they just approved a rate increase in September of 0.25%, which is why our rates continue to go up, why our earnings each month continue to go up. I think we're in the $64,000 a month earnings right now on just the money that we have sitting in the bank, which is, investments are important, but the depository agreement that you all made with with Central Bank also is very important to follow that yield. And so the Federal Reserve has indicated they're going to have one more rate increase of 0.25 in December and 3 increases in the year 2019. So our earnings will continue to increase, and we'll do our best to work with you all and get that excess cash into the right Treasury note or Treasury bill. So, you all have any questions?
No, it's working out really well.
Very good.
So we basically have 3 million in long-term
Right.
investments and no short-term investments.
Exactly. We won't
Right
have
now.
excess cash probably till January to even talk about doing 30-day bills again. So,
And then where was that 3 million? What funds was that out of?
General, law enforcement, and insurance.
Health insurance. Okay. Thank you.
thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Thanks. Okay, discussion with MEM on the county safety dividend.
We get money back today.
Yes, I used to do, I'm short and sweet. The safety dividend check was $5,081.90. You guys are doing a great job. Debbie does a great job. Dale does
Yay,
a great
Debbie.
job.
Yeah, thank you.
So,
And remember, this was when Dale came to us about a year ago and discussed that MEM had a new way of doing their dividends or refunds. You had to do the safety committee and had to make an effort to go out and basically inform all of our employees. And then we activated the safety group again with Chris. And we do it every 2 months. We try. Unfortunately, sometimes it gets canceled due to something. But through that effort is why we get this. And Dale could explain the other things that audit looked at too.
Well, the dividend is just based on your loss ratio and the points you have on that dividend program, which I think is 10 or 12, I can't remember off the top of my head. To qualify for it, you gotta have a 50% loss ratio or less. So this year, this dividend check is for the 16 policy, year 16, 17. Right now, you're in the 18. Right now, it's looking good that you'll get a dividend check again for the 18 year. I think right now your overall loss ratio is 38%, but you still have 2.5 months, but you still also have 2.5 months of premium coming in as well. So hopefully that we'll have a good 2.5 months, and we'll be giving you another check next year. Yeah. And then the only other thing we had was the safety grant program, which you all got a $20,000 safety grant check for the striker cots or for the hydraulic cots for the EMS. So that was a 2-year program. So you guys will qualify for you'll be eligible for a safety grant program starting in 2020. And right now MEM will give up to $10,000 per year for the safety grant. So and we've talked with everybody that, okay, what can be a safety grant next? Sure. Trying to give you back a little bit of your premium.
That's right.
and I do not have the rates yet, but I'm hoping to have them.
The renewal rates for next
Hopefully by
year should
next-
be in soon.
Yeah.
Yes.
Cool. Always like getting money back.
Thanks for your help.
Thank you
Yeah.
very much.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you.
grants, appreciate the
Yeah.
grants too.
And
Thank
Dale will
you.
be coming to our next safety meeting, so hopefully.
Yeah,
And I'll
appreciate
have
your help
all
with
the-
that.
I'll know then where you're sitting. I'll have really pretty good numbers with the loss ratios and everything. And I can kind of cover the claims issues and everything there.
Yeah, it's been really good because he'll go visit the sheriff's department, he'll go visit, he planned to visit Public Works today, but they are out for a MAC thing today and yesterday and today, so we're gonna reschedule that too.
Yeah,
Okay.
so trying to just keep up, like I said, you keep your loss ratios down, your EMOD stays down, your premium stays down, you get your dividend back, so it's just saving you money long term.
Keeping our people safe too.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the most important, because right now, you couldn't find anybody to replace them.
That's right.
So, that's a big challenge.
Yep. Okay. Well, thanks for coming and thanks for the money.
Thank
Thank you.
I'm glad we went after Randy.
We're getting all this extra money, this 18,000 here and then this.
Extra
Yeah, we're
money.
working on a,
Extra
Red
money.
Corvette.
Where you got extra money?
well, you know, so for that, my
High
red,
pursuit safety vehicle?
my red vehicle.
No.
November 29th.
The guard service.
Accu-
Got it over here.
Hmm?
That form there.
Yeah, John's in the way, I'm sorry.
We're gonna get a picture in a little bit.
Accurate
As long as
controls
you just hide behind him. There we go.
bid on attorney-client rooms.
So, a recent court law, or court decision came out to where attorney-clients can't be recorded, right? Either audible or on video. Our system was not designed that way. Our system was to record everything all the time. Now, in the attorney-client rooms, you could flip a button and it would turn off the audio, but it was still recording. Well, with the court decision, we're gonna have to change our attorney-client rooms. What we did with one of those rooms is we went in and just simply unplugged it from the DVR. But that locks that one down, that only attorney-clients can use that, and so that leaves us only one interview room that cops can use inside our facility. And then it presents a problem up in our investigations when we're investigating someone upstairs and they want to talk to their attorney, then we have to take them out and put them in another part of our office because all those rooms are recorded. So we went to Accurate Controls. They gave us some money on how much it's going to cost to change those. We actually, the two interview rooms down in the jail and then the one room up in detectives is what we're changing. They gave me a bid for the video conference room too, and that was about $7 grand. I turned that one down. But if we could get these other ones down, one is for the two down in the jail, it's $5,914. For the one up in detective, it's $4,903. And of course, it would come out of contingency because I don't have this in my budget. Yes, and these are the yeses, and Sam would have to sign this.
So we're needing to do both.
Both of the interview rooms downstairs, and then one interview room up in the, and what it does, it puts a light on the front too, so that you can visually see that the system is turned off.
I think legally we have to do this.
Well, if we want to keep,
Yeah.
if we want to keep things moving, we've already received some complaints from attorneys on not being able to come into and do interviews, which is not entirely true because I keep a log of the current interview room we have and it's not being utilized like they say that they need. So the other thing is, these attorneys, we run a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week facility and they're only wanting to come in between 8 and 3 o'clock, and there are certain times that we don't let people come in when we're doing our counts. That's just not going to work. So if they truly need to talk to their clients, it's that imperative. They can come after hours. They can also come on the weekends. But this will give us 2 rooms down into the jail itself where they would be able to utilize both of them, and then one up in the detectives. If we're interviewing somebody and an attorney is present and they want to speak with their client, we can simply turn the button.
Is there any economies to doing them both at once? I just see per diem, traveling per diem on here twice.
I don't know the answer to that because we asked those for separately because I wanted to know how much it was going to cost individually. I would say that the most that we were going to spend is what you're seeing in front of your hands. It might be less than that and the same as with Missouri Telecom, who actually is contracted through Accurate Controls. They would show up and do it all at one time versus coming at 2 separate times.
Right. I mean, it's about half the cost on the travel and the per diem for both, so I just didn't know if they could fly in and stay.
I would assume that it wouldn't be that much if they come in and do both of them at the same time, Chris, but I also don't know if they can or not. I just don't know. I asked for the bids and that's what they gave me.
This is sole source, I guess.
Yes.
And we already advertised for that, is that right?
We advertised for sole source for accurate controls one other time. I thought that covered us. For when we put the 4 computers in. I'm pretty sure we did sole source for accurate controls.
Was it this year? Was it?
Yeah, no, they're
It
working on
was
it
this
right
year.
now.
Yeah, it was this year, but we need to double check with Jennifer how.
I'll
she
check with
worked.
I'll double check with her, and if not, then we'll go ahead and do the sole source for it. But if you go ahead and approve it, it would speed things on a lot for me, depending on the sole source. Well, and it's gonna go through.
How about an emergency purchase, because this log came down and
Yeah, and there has even been a complaint at federal court and my problem is they're erroneous complaints, because those are available and nobody is, what it is they're calling within their 30-minute window and saying, need to speak to my client, and they're saying, well, either no, you can't because we're feeding our accountant, or there's already somebody in there, and so then they get mad and then they tell the judge, well, we tried to get in there, we can't do it.
of course.
Yeah.
How do these small jails do this?
They don't.
Well, a lot of the small jails don't have cameras.
Yeah.
And the problem is we have to have what this does is it turns the camera off so it's not recording, but the camera's still on so we can still monitor. So because what we don't want is someone being interviewed in there and end up getting assaulted, the lawyer gets assaulted or
They just unplug theirs.
Yeah.
I wish it was that easy.
Sure it is.
No, it's actually not, Chris, because it goes into the security electronics. We have to go in there every time, or we're doing right now, we'd shut one room down to where only one room is available, versus this would make it for both of us available to do it.
Wire cutters.
I just use the mute button, but.
Yeah.
There's no mute button. I mean, the mute's
I
already
know.
there.
I know, I'm oversimplifying it.
It really
drives
is.
you nuts, but
You gotta come down and look at the security electronics to understand how complicated this is.
You good with this?
yeah, I think we need to do it. It does drive me nuts though, because I think that there'd be a way to simplify it, but nobody's done that yet. So.
Yeah.
Not your fault, John.
No, but y'all are welcome to come down there and look if you wanna if you come up with a solution for me. I'd be
Yeah,
happy.
I'm good to be able to do text and to post stuff, so I wouldn't know how to set this stuff up. But I do know how to hit mute on my phone if I don't want somebody hearing the conversation.
And it's not the
So-
mute part that the problem is. That's already taken care of. It's the recording, the actual video of what's going on. Our system was not designed for that. Our system's to record all the time.
You don't want to get into this. I move that we approve the 2 proposals for accurate controls, approve and sign for 490323 and for 591495.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'll talk with Jennifer before we proceed to make sure that we have the sole source for accurate controls. And if not, I'm probably gonna have them do just accurate controls for proprietary software for the whole thing, so we don't have to do this again. Anything else for me? Thank you.
See ya.
Thanks, Sean.
Later.
First reading of budget adjustment number 8.
Right, this is for $10,000 even. It's for the Bill Farr's, it's Missouri Public Safety, for training grant. It's just a pass-through grant that we do. So no action today, we'll just hold it for 10 days and then.
Okay. We got anything else before we go into closed session?
So I did meet with DevNet on Thursday with the assessor, Brian, Melissa, LV, and basically we outlined all the issues that we were having with the conversion, gave them a list, and just basically stressed that we needed some communication there. Kristen was there too. Sorry, I didn't mean to leave you out. Anyway, stressed that we needed better communication. We needed some answers, and we needed timelines for completion, and So I think it was a productive meeting. Brandon actually went over to the assessor's office and kind of helped them through some issues there, and so hopefully we'll keep moving that forward. And then met with Mike Bates, and I need to get with you guys on courthouse landscaping stuff and trying to get that going.
So what are they gonna do with Deb now? Are they gonna get that done soon? Or is it gonna still be a he said, she said thing? Cause that's what it seems like it's been.
Well, I think it was just expectations of what we needed to get done, and I just think there was a lack of communication there, and so they had downloaded data. They needed us to review the data and make sure that it was accurate, and then get back to them, and then they work on downloading more data and making sure that other fields are accurate too. And so, you know, some of that was on our end and some of that was on their end. So I don't think it was really their fault or our fault, but it was just that we weren't working well together. So,
Hopefully going forward, we're gonna have an email list so everybody's
yes.
on the same page.
Yep.
So what kind of time are we looking at still? I mean,
Well, it's hard to give a true timeline as to when we'll go live, but anyway, they're working towards it so that they can start doing assessments for next year. 'Cause next year's a reassessment year, so
yeah.
they're pretty concerned about it, as well as I would be.
Didn't they promise everything was gonna be done? They was gonna work with it, they could get everything, they had the information, they knew how to get it.
Well, therein lies some of the problem too. So they were gonna build a system, they were gonna build a homegrown system, but they couldn't get all the data from Clear Basin. So now we're going with the system that they have that will be just as good, or it'll be a good system. I don't know. That's probably depends on who you
Well,
asked. If it was just as good, there's gonna be some trials and errors there. But anyway, the system will be accurate, and I think it'll be more consistent across the board.
But we hear it from them every time. When we went with one system, they were gonna build a bridge.
Yep.
Right.
They
Yep.
built the bridge,
Yep.
the son of a bitch was on fire though. So, that never happened. Now we have this, and they promised, yeah, we can get all the information, and it's all gonna be fine, and then here we are again in the same boat right now. So,
Right.
I guess we'll just wait and see, but I will be pleasantly surprised if at the end of the year they have it done.
Yeah, I
Let's
don't know
put
if
it
it'll
that
be
way.
done by the end of the year.
Why not? It needs to be. Next year's the assessment year. This has been going on for way too long, and now they're gonna tell us it's a communication problem. We've been here the whole time. They've had it for how long? So,
I get what you're saying, but the assessor's office staff is short-staffed, and they're trying to work on current stuff that they need to get done, and so Alvin and some of the other people in the office are trying to help go through some of that review process, because that's a lengthy process, and so if they just dump all the information, it may not be in the right field. It may, so it's not just, it's dumping the information and making sure it's in the right place and they can use it, so it's.
With a vendor that you're no longer gonna be working with.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's,
Tread lightly again.
so we're gonna
not-
tread lightly for 2 or 3 years.
No,
No,
better,
no. We're pushing them, so, anyway. I can talk more to you about it later if you want. So, contracts for strategic capital, Jill has some sample contracts that we need to look at and see if you guys are okay with them, before we get those on the agenda. Oh, and then, I sent you guys a proposal for some grass mowing out at the new health building, and obviously there's a open house coming up, and so I don't know if we want Greg to try to do that, or if we want to try to hire that, maybe for a couple times and then make a decision or whatever. But I thought it was a reasonable price for, taking care of all that, so. But I'd just like to get something done before we have the open house and
Yeah, why
everybody
don't we,
there.
why don't we let that company do it and just see what, see how it works and see what it,
I mean, it'd just be a per occurrence type thing, and then maybe possibly, I know you said you had somebody else that may be interested too, but
Well, I was looking at some different options, maybe not even somebody else, but equipment wise, but, what are we gonna need it done, 1 or 2 more times this year?
probably.
And they've been doing it all year long,
Yeah, this company's been doing it
So-
prior to,
just let them finish out the year, and then let's figure out what we're gonna do for next year.
Okay.
Greg's already shorthanded, so if that saves them a day from, or a half a day or whatever from having to pull a couple guys, there's a lot of stuff out there, so.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. And then we can talk about the stuff for next year, maybe around budget time. There's some different options.
Okay.
Anything else?
I probably had other stuff, but
Oh.
I'll think about it after we get done.
Yeah.
I didn't make a list.
No.
I had a call from Terra Road, from a resident on Terra Road about doing an NID.
Good luck.
Yeah, I know.
Sam's in charge.
I've been messing with that for
I know.
10 years.
Yeah,
I don't think it's necessarily just the NIDs. We got some other options up there of fixing that, the ingress and egress there, but we have to have some property and to do that, so we're still working on that. So you can tell them we're working on that, because
Yeah.
that is the biggest deal, is the entrance, or I guess the exit coming out of there. So tell them there's stuff in the works, but this doesn't happen overnight when you're trying to get people to give you stuff. And we
Yeah.
don't have a whole lot to
Yeah.
offer them.
well,
So, unless they wanna give us some money and we can maybe buy the land. So, and that's an option. But we don't typically buy land for right away.
no. Could you make that part of the NID?
I'll buy dinner if you get an NID formed and the road paved in the next probably 5 years even. I just, no one will know about it, it's not gonna happen.
No, I know, well,
And that doesn't help where that road comes in and out at, because that NID would not be, agriculture land is not gonna be part of the NID. So that's part of that, so.
Do you guys need any information for the health insurance for next Tuesday night?
No, he did a good job on explaining all that, and we really don't have any numbers that are, I mean, it'd be a crapshoot trying to figure out. I guess you can take the existing families and stuff and get an idea, but,
And I have done that, so send that to you.
yeah, I guess we can look at that, but I don't know if I need you to go dig up anything else on it. I don't have anything else, so whenever y'all are ready, we do need to add emergency personnel for
okay.
that.
16021, section 3.
I move we go into closed session pursuant to section 610.021 of the revised statutes of Missouri for personnel sub 3 and security issues sub 19.
Second.
Roll call?
Sam?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
Okay.
John,
Where do you go?
John, we gotta lay John down.
Sure he doesn't have a recording device there?
Hey, Debbie.